I'm Conor Ruebusch, and if you are interested in the finer points of face punching, you've come to the right place. This is Heavy Hands. Hello and welcome to a special interim episode of Heavy Hands. We are here once again with one of our favorite interviews, the man, the legend, Mark Henry, head coach of such great UFC fighters as Eddie Alvarez, Frankie Edgar, Edson Barboza, Chris Weidman, striking coach in that regard, and also a non-UFC fighter in Marlon Moraes. Quite a schedule of people to take care of there. And Mark, we're talking to you right now very shortly in the aftermath of UFC 205. Obviously, Frankie's fight went very well. In the main event, it did not go your way for Eddie Alvarez. I know that must have been disappointing. We wanted to actually kick things off by asking you about the audio that was released on UFC Fight Pass of you and the rest of Eddie's team in the corner. And there was actually, it seemed almost a lot of desperation in the coaching advice. And Eddie himself came out after the fight and talked about how he didn't feel he'd executed the game plan that you guys had spent so much time working on. Was that the case? Did you feel like you had a lot of difficulty getting Eddie to do what you had prepared him to do?
The game plan's irrelevant. Eddie lost. We win together as a team, we lose together as a team. So, what he did is as much as our fault as, we all go down together, man. So,
yeah, a lot of people were.
The game plan was. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, a lot of people were expressing admiration in Eddie. They basically said he kind of threw himself under the bus for you guys. He didn't want to have the blame for the loss fall on his coach. But do you feel like it was a factor of the entire team, not necessarily having the right?
It's always the entire team, So desperation wasn't desperation. You couldn't hear in there. Conor's fans were so loud.
Oh yeah, you could hear it.
And he was rocked several times. I mean, listen to Frankie's. If you have a guy who just dropped somebody 4 times, I'm sure the tone is way different.
Yeah.
Then listen to Frankie's tape. I guarantee you the tone set will be a lot different.
I'm sure.
When you have your guy who's rocked, got dropped, 3-4 times, the tone and is going to be a lot different. And there's, just off the bat, it's tough. There's certain things you can't do with a southpaw, that we need to make sure we didn't do, and we didn't get it done.
Can I ask what the game plan was coming into the fight? I know you said it's irrelevant. The fight has already happened. But one thing that you guys called a lot for, you seem to be asking for takedowns. And in the corner after the first round, you advised Eddie basically to expect to fail on the first shot and to always be looking to chain wrestle. Was a big idea in the game plan to be taking McGregor down as early and as often as you could?
Yeah, well, basically what you heard in between rounds is partially what we were saying in the corner,
Mm-hmm.
And not that it was the full game plan, but at the time what was going on, takedown would have been good because stand up was definitely not working.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of on that note, in general, I mean, you've coached fighters through some tough fights before. I mean, I'm thinking of Frankie's couple of fights with Gray Maynard. Like, how much do you have to adjust on the fly, and how much of these can be things that you've worked on beforehand? Like, to what extent can you try to stick to a plan? How much do you have to shake it up?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors too. Eddie was rocked, so the worst thing to do. I'm not Conor, but anybody. It's just stand in front of a guy with no feints, with no movement and no angles, and that goes with anybody, not just Conor. And so you want to try to make sure all those are going on at once to be unpredictable. Is always the major factor with any guy that we have. And I think when you get rocked that early, doesn't matter what the game plan was, doesn't matter what the corner's saying, doesn't even matter what's going through your mind. Sometimes you're a little, unless you fought before, so many people could say so many things, but, everybody writes so many different things, but I wish only that people could write things that someone's been rocked before. If you've never been rocked before, maybe people should shut their damn mouth and, not worry about what someone's doing when when they've been hit pretty hard.
Yeah,
they have no clue what's going on.
And speaking of that, you've had Frankie under your guidance for a long time as a coach, and Frankie kind of has a reputation. Both Frankie and Eddie have a bit of a reputation for fighting back really well after getting hurt. As their careers have gone on, both guys get hurt less in fights, which I think is a testament to their training. But their reactions do seem very different. With Frankie, for example, getting hurt in that fight with Jeremy Stevens, he got clipped right in the perfect spot with an awkward head kick and went very defensive, kind of went back into lightweight Frankie Edgar mode, moved a lot, and got his legs back under him. Eddie has always seemed to kind of have the instinct to swing his way out of danger. Do you feel it was more difficult to prepare? Is it more difficult to prepare somebody for a power punching opponent when that is their response?
Everybody's different,
Mm-hmm.
on how, like say somebody slips on ice and driving a car, everybody acts different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people jerk the steering wheel and make it worse on themselves, Same thing in a fight, it depends on the person and, how, if they could stay relaxed, how bad the hit was, can they see? I've been rocked before where I've seen static, I couldn't even see the guy in front of me.
Yeah.
So I would move.
Mm-hmm.
I would, make sure I kept on my wheels until, focus came back. Sometimes you have a ringing in your ear, so sometimes it's bright, so, everybody, it's different for everybody, on when they get, hit hard and, it happened more than once too. So,
mm-hmm.
Frankie, blessed that, he recovers pretty quick, and, he did at that moment. He did, what he usually does when he gets rocked, and it worked out well. Also,
there's,
too, he's a little bigger. Depends on the size of the guy. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's an old saying that says no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And it seems like, in situations like that, there's only so much that you can do when you've been hit that way. So kind of thinking about McGregor, was what he showed you more or less what you expected from him, or was he doing things that you didn't really expect out there?
No, every single thing he did was 100%, what we expected, slip back left hammer off the left hand, that's what's made him what he is. I mean, he's done it in every single fight. He's dropped almost everybody in every fight like that. But, it's just that he has such a long range and it's so quick unless you're in there, it's, you can't really decipher how fast it is. And, and I think that Eddie straight out and said it came so quick. He wasn't ready. I guess he wasn't, he didn't see it, he said. So I don't know if that's what kind of funked him from the get-go, but Eddie's awesome, man. What Eddie's accomplished has been amazing in his career, and he'll definitely be back. And we just I don't know if it was the hit or he couldn't hear or what, but stuff happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at McGregor as an opponent, and obviously you have some.
Can't win every fight.
What's that?
I said usually everybody does. Somebody loses sometime or another.
Oh, absolutely. Even the great Conor McGregor has lost a fight and has come pretty close on other occasions. So yeah, nobody is invincible. We're sure that Eddie will be back. Looking at McGregor as an opponent, though, obviously you have a few other guys in and around that division that could be potential opponents for him in the future. And then there are a lot of other contenders, both at featherweight and lightweight. McGregor has kind of put himself in a pot of hot water here because now being a two-division champion, he has two of the most stacked divisions against him as contenders. What is your estimation of him going forward? Do you feel any differently about his skill set after the fight than you did while you were preparing to beat him?
Yeah, I always thought he was an amazing fighter. I always thought he was, he was great. I mean, partial of it is getting upset, about, first of all, you're trying to get the fight for your guy, trying to help in any way you can to try to rile people up to get the fight. And then, there's the fact, what was some stuff that was said about my guys I didn't appreciate.
Sure.
That I kind of went a direction that I never go, and I shouldn't have went. And I wish I didn't, because I've never talked about another fighter, and I really don't want to, going forward, or being, and I guess I just have to keep my mouth shut when other coaches talk about, my guys, even though it's, I think it's ridiculous unless they want to get in there with them. But I apologize on air about it. I tried to apologize to him face to face, but he had to go places, I had to go places, so we never got the opportunity. But yeah, it's something. But I if you heard other interviews, me talking about him before the fight, I have very high regard for Conor. Even, I'm not going to say definitely wasn't Frankie, but when he had his first fight, there was one of my guys that wanted to possibly fight him, and it was, I only saw his first fight, and I watched his tape, and I said, man, this dude has some unbelievable stand-up. I told the person's manager, don't let him take this fight. So, from his very first fight, I thought he was, incredible. I think, his power is just, man, it's just something I haven't seen. He's got, such a good left hand. He has good speed. He has good precision. He has a good mindset for fighting and where guys are going to be. Amazing footwork, So, he's a really amazing fighter. And, I think even with, people talking about Mayweather now, people don't realize either, too, in MMA, the guys cut a lot more than they do in boxing. So, he's a lot bigger than Floyd. People don't understand that. They see them both fighting at 47, or like Conor probably walks about 73. So Mayweather probably walks, who knows what he walks. 50,
I don't think he even cuts much weight.
50. Yeah, boxers don't cut too much. So, I mean, he's already at least 15 pounds bigger than Floyd, which I think boxing people really don't realize, and the average person really doesn't realize. So I think within the first 3 rounds, I think he'd have a great chance of even, knocking out someone of Floyd, who's, 40 years old right now. After 3 rounds, I couldn't tell you what could happen, because Mayweather's defense is way better. His cardio was just out of this world.
Yeah.
But, up until 3 rounds, man, I give Conor definitely a great chance.
So seeing as how Floyd can't stop a double leg takedown, as Nick Diaz has famously said, if you were putting together a fighter to beat McGregor in MMA, what do you think would be the things that not many other people have really had that they would need to defeat him, whether intangibles or specific techniques or strategy? What would you imbue that fighter with to give him a good shot against a fighter like Conor?
I think I'd 100% do Frankie Edgar. That's who I do. There's been 2 years now. He could have fought Frankie. It hasn't happened. Frankie's never been stopped. He can't say that he beat Aldo, because that's just ridiculous. That's just the same as everybody that beat Nate would beat Conor or knock him out. So it's just stupid to even, say, oh, Aldo beat Frankie, so Conor. That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So you probably never watched too much MMA if you say that, or you're just so full of Conor, you can't help yourself. But I think Frankie's the perfect guy that would he's got foot movement. Frankie sees punches coming way ahead of time. He's never been stopped. Wrestling is unbelievable. His setups to his wrestling is unbelievable. I mean, just look at this last fight. Conor fought Nate at the time, was a ranked 8th guy, and he got stopped. I mean, look at Frankie, who fought a bigger guy, Stevens. They weighed them too right before the fight, and Jeremy was about almost 15 pounds bigger than Frankie.
Wow.
And you see what happens when Frankie fights someone bigger than him, and you see what happens when he fights someone bigger than him. So, and Nate, was a little bigger, and he got stopped and barely won. Frankie, that's pretty good. So I would put together an exact Frankie Edgar. Defense, fast hands, fast feet. Feints, amazing wrestling, amazing jiu-jitsu, kicks that can get him by, amazing amazing, defense with kicks would be my perfect guy would be a Frankie Edgar. My second perfect guy would be Khabib, or even Khabib first. Frankie and Khabib together. I think Khabib is on a whole nother. I think as much as another level that Conor is in his striking, Khabib's on a whole nother level in his wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And Khabib's not afraid of anything. And Khabib, I know him personally, he's not afraid of anything. Then there's the other style of Edson Barboza. He's never really had a really good Muay Thai guy go at him. So that's another that's another that'll set that it's really a kind of a question mark right now. Plus Edson has speed, Edson has range. So that'd be another one.
Yeah, so speaking of speaking of Frankie, I had a question for you about that, because he mentioned after the fight that he was injured, that he had a knee injury, that his back wasn't feeling very good. How do you train a fighter who's coming in with injuries like that? How do you change up their program to work around it? Just to make sure the cardio's up, so that what you're hoping for is that while you're not doing jiu-jitsu, while you're not doing wrestling, that you're hoping that when the fight goes down, you're hoping that his knee and his back are okay, but he has the cardio. So you want to make sure that the cardio portion stays up. So, he definitely missed few weeks of sparring, and but we made sure he did other things to keep his cardio up. And he did no wrestling at all the whole camp, which and he wrestles a lot, and he did no jiu-jitsu either. So, it was pretty much it was close to a disaster. We were trying to get him not to fight. He insisted on fighting. He tore his MCL, so to compensate for that, he put a lot of pressure on his back. So then he had to get an epidural for his back, like a week before the fight. So, everything wasn't going too good.
It is mind-blowing that he did as well as he did with no wrestling, no jiu-jitsu, and limited sparring. He very convincingly beat a really tough, big opponent in Jeremy Stephens.
Yeah. And you want to make your perfect guy against Conor. There's a reason why Conor has, chose to skip Frankie. There's a reason. You can't say either that, Frankie lost. Well, you lost too. You got stopped. So in that time that Frankie was, trying to wait to fight him, Frankie lost, but he got stopped. So I don't know who's the, but he got the title. Frankie didn't. So, not taking away credit of what he's accomplished as 2-division champion is amazing. But I'm just saying, if you're going to, his coach is going to talk about, well, Frankie didn't do his part against Jose. Well, you didn't do your part either. You got stopped. So, and then you barely scathed through the second fight. So, I don't think he could really, they could throw that out of Frankie. He didn't do his part because, he didn't do his part either. It was supposed to be fight and come right back down, and that didn't happen. So he got stopped.
Well, who knows? Maybe we will see that someday soon. Mark, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us, especially in the aftermath of an event that I know didn't go the way that you had hoped that it would. But we appreciate your insight as always, and good luck to you with future camps.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to throw out too, man. My daughter had made it to her first UFC event, and she was in a section with all the Irish fans.
Oh.
And the Irish fans, they were so graceful to her. They were so nice to her. And as one cool thing was, you got to hook up with a lot of Irish fans, and it was an amazing. Not that we've seen them and hung out with them in other fights, but I just want to put my thanks out to them. Because my daughter's experience, hanging out with them was awesome. They were so gracious and so nice, so respectful, and I just want to thank the people that were in her section and the people throughout the week. I just want to thank them from bottom of my heart, man. They were great, and so it was awesome.
Even in the Conor McGregor era, there is still love among fight fans. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mark.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you got it, brother. All right, buddy.
And that'll do it for this short little episode of Heavy Hands. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you found that as insightful as we did. If you want to get after us on social media, Twitter's probably the best way to do that. I am at BoxingBush, that's B-U-S-C-H, on Twitter.com. Patrick is at Patrick_Wyman. And otherwise, if you came here today for the finer points of face punching, you came to the right place. This has been Heavy Hands.